and welcome to Classic City Blue.
I love what I do.
Chief was very much involved into the neighborhood.
Finding your own way of policing and having confidence in it.
Handle the basics.
How do people treat you different?
Answer your calls.
You have a bigger impact than you think you do.
What kind of effect would it have on you, your family, or better yet, the agency?
And welcome to Classic City Blue, a podcast that introduces you to our employees and the specialized units within Athens-Clarke County Police Department. I'm your host, Lieutenant Enrique Rivera, and today's special guest is none other than Sergeant Greg Turner and his partner K9, Bruno. Sarge, thank you for coming.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Lieutenant, for having me.
Oh, no problem. I'm pretty sure our viewers will see your partner here in about, there you go, there he is.
There he is.
So, a couple questions. I'm gonna talk about the dog first. Tell me about Bruno.
So Bruno is one of six, some people call it full service or dual purpose canines that we have here in Athens-Clarke County. So the simplest way for me to explain that would be he has two main or cardinal odors. So he can detect human odor, whether that be an actual human or like if they've touched a piece of evidence. He can do an evidence or an article search, and then his other discipline is narcotics. So a group of 5 narcotics that he can detect. So him and all the other 5 dogs are specialized in that, and he is about to be 7 years old, second week of June.
Have you had him all 7 years?
We obviously the unit was restarted by Chief Sproul in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what, he's got a hairball going on, but and because of the pandemic that was going on, the dogs were a little older than we would prefer. We would like to select a dog somewhere between 14 and 18 months. The group of dogs that we got were around 2. So yeah, I got him at age 2, had him for almost 5 years, and it's about to be 7.
So how long was Bruno's training?
So Bruno's training, if we're talking specifically to the dog, would be, I don't want to say from birth,
Right.
but so Bruno and the majority of our dogs are imported by the kennel we use in North Carolina. He was born in Slovakia. His early training was in Holland. And when I say early training, that's like puppy training, where he's basically playing games with like a rag on a stick, or they'll hollow out a trench and walk in the trench, and the dog just learns to kind of follow the trench and or the human odor. So I would say he's had training from, a month or 2 old to now.
So and in that process, right, they're looking for certain traits, right? Because not everybody gets picked as a dog, a police dog.
So, Lieutenant, we get a lot of questions about why we use, obviously, Bruno is a German Shepherd. He's the lone German Shepherd. Majority of, seems like working dogs, police and military are kind of using a Belgian Malinois. Some people call him a Belgian Shepherd. That's not because they're necessarily really good in one area. The ergonomics of their body and just the way that class, has been, that class or breed of dog has been bred over the years, makes them really good at all the disciplines we need them to.
Now, he wears a vest just like you do, right? He's got his decked out vest, wears body armor just like any police officer, and technically he's assigned a police badge number, right? He is a full-blown police officer.
The way it was explained to me as the supervisor over the unit, and shout out to Lieutenant Blair, who was the supervisor before me, who did a fabulous job. The dog's uniform for the day, all the dogs, including Bruno, is a tracking harness. Mm-hmm. So it's a little lighter cloth harness, that's not ballistic or bulletproof. He does have a bulletproof vest, all the dogs do. That would be something situation specific, where they're not going to be working in the heat for a while. He's rolling around on the ground over here. Bruno, You all right? But so the uniform for the day would be the cloth harness. I don't know if y'all got a shot of that, but what he came in on,
Right.
and that tracking harness. Because obviously, if someone had a weapon, it would be a different level of force than using a canine, but it could fall back down in the escalation force using a canine. Or if we don't know for sure someone has a weapon, obviously the dog would be an option. But heat is his biggest adversary in this part of the country. Not saying he can't get, shot or stabbed or whatever. And certainly we want to use him as a tool to keep the human officers safe. That's his number one job. But we're going to keep him in minimum gear, just out of respect for the heat.
So, does he have, when we put on this vest, we go into that police mode, right? When we take off the vest, most of us are dads and moms. Our situation changes. Is he the same? Because, you see him now, and he looks like a perfectly regular dog. So, does he know? Does he have like a switch once he gets in the car? It's go time?
Yeah, I would say I guess you're a supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
My role as a supervisor may be a little different because the county has entrusted officers that are excellent officers, high character guys with a dog, and obviously I can't be around them 24/7, so I don't know every little intricacy of their routine, but I promise you he knows every intricacy of my routine. So if he hears my Alexa alarm go off and then the shower turn on, those are all kind of cues to him, just like the vest for us. So I would say contextually he knows, okay, we're about to go to work. Then, like you said, the collar and the harness go on, or the siren, or obviously I would say German Shepherds especially are kind of keen on picking up those context clues. So if I turn my body camera on, if I shut my laptop, those are all kind of cues to him. I'm either at work or something's going on at work. I think the dogs are incredible because they can pick up on when you're excited, when your adrenaline's going. And so, they're constantly studying whoever the handler is, in this case, me.
Now, I've been on tracks with you, with Bruno, exceptional
Yes,
dog.
sir.
But I notice, and everybody notices, that you don't speak English to him. Is it because of where he was raised or born, or that's just everybody uses that?
So excellent question. A lot of people in society as a whole, even within the canine community, would say we use in his case, he has one or two Czech commands, and he has majority Dutch commands, that we use those commands so the suspect can't, be yelling at him to sit or stay or whatever. I would argue it's just where they're from.
Okay.
I make a joke that he's kind of multilingual or trilingual because he knows Czech, which is his search command. The majority of the rest of his original commands, the apprehension command, the sit, stay, all that is majority of what he got in Holland. So those are Dutch commands like the rest of our dogs. And then he kind of has to understand my accent and, how I say things. And again, that would go back to those context clues.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily listening to what I say. If there's repetition, then yes, they're going to listen to what you say, but they're more listening to how you say it, your body language, when you're saying it. I can't believe he's laying down right now, but
Yeah.
I would say he's a normal dog.
Yeah.
We don't have to teach him to dog. They do have a little more energy
Yes.
than your normal pet.
Yes.
So I would say that's a huge difference to answer your question. But other than that, now with him being a patrol dog or being apprehension trained, we do kind of have to teach him like you would a rookie human officer that, hey, be nice to everybody, be professional, and not everyone is a threat, but everyone can be a threat.
Right.
So kind of teaching the dog to have that edge or like that situational awareness, that's kind of the harder part of the dog training.
We took a little break. Bruno had to be nap time, so he had to go get in his vehicle. And Sarge, you had to get just a little bit more comfortable. So now that we put Bruno into the car, I'm assuming that car has great AC for him. What kind of equipment's in that vehicle that has to be put in for the canines?
Yeah, so every one of our canine handlers has an SUV. That's not only because of, obviously the dog needs to have plenty of room. You don't want him to have too much room because if you're driving fast to a call, whatever the case may be, emergency response, they're kind of, for lack of a better term, they're kind of surfing back there.
Yeah.
So they have to get their sea legs, so you want them to have enough room to be able to move freely. There's rubber matting, your typical, comfortable dog kennel with all the amenities in it. All of our guys have some variation of a Ford Explorer, so I've got that air blasting for them, and then there is a heat sensor. The majority of our guys have at minimum the heat sensor, which the car's siren will go off and the horn beeps and it gives you warnings once you get above 85, and you can pretty much set the settings of when you want your car to kind of go off. I make the joke, the old movie, The Love Bug, that's kind of what the car does. Yeah, the car kind of turns into Herbie when it gets above 90. And that heat sensor is fused to the battery of the vehicle, so the car doesn't even have to be on. I would say, unless it's winter time, I pretty much leave the car on if he's in it. And then there's a variation of that heat sensor that also has a door pop, which would be a situation where, an officer's involved in some kind of fight, a felony obstruction deal, and they're far and away from their backup, then if it's within policy and state law, they can utilize the dog, one, to come find them. That's the first thing you want to teach them with that door pop apparatus. And then if they were to find you, then they could assist you in apprehending that individual you're in the altercation with.
When I first met you, you threw me off because we're both not from Georgia, but I heard you talk, and I thought you were homegrown in the South. So I came to find out that is not true. Okay, so give us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, where you're from, if you played any sports, what college you go to, something like that.
So I am currently 38 years old, and I'm glad you asked, because now I have the same amount of time in the South as when I lived up north, so 19 in the southeastern part of Massachusetts, and then 19 either in South Carolina or here. And yes, there are some people that think that I'm doing some method acting or my accent is fake, but it's just, I guess, acclimating to being around folks from the South for a long time now. But yeah, originally grew up in Massachusetts.
Which I would have never thought. I was like, no, you're lying to me.
If I get angry or, whatever, I can park the car and do all the Boston accent stuff. But yeah, I grew up maybe 30 minutes. Obviously with traffic, you never made it in 30 minutes, kind of like trying to get to Atlanta from here, but 30 minutes distance-wise southeast of Boston. And my wife can attest that I had the accent, but my wife's from upstate South Carolina, so kind of being around her and all the good
you
Southern
went to school
folk.
in South Carolina, right?
So first 2 years played college baseball and was my major was exercise science in a small school in Quincy, Massachusetts.
That's why you got buff, right? Okay.
I'm trying. I got the dad bod going now, but
Father figure.
Father figure, I
Father
like
figure.
it, Lieutenant. Then after playing the freshman sophomore year with my older brother, transferred to Southern Wesleyan University, which is in the Clemson area of South Carolina, and I met my wife, who was at a different school, but a local school, and went from there.
Now, when I met my wife, there was a language barrier. When you met your wife, was there that barrier? Your accent from Massachusetts, her from South Carolina?
I may be trying to, like you said, my accent may be confused, or I'm continuing to try to assimilate, but she's, true blue Southern, from the upstate of South Carolina. I kind of joke that she loves the mountains. She's a mountain gal. So there was some cultural stuff, I guess, from being from the same country, but different
parts.
regions.
Yes.
So there was definitely some stuff to get.
Now, and I would add, you do play softball for us, and you're one of the main. I've heard, right? I've heard
boy.
you're one of our sluggers. You're one of the main reasons why we won the championship this year.
Coach Barker, our computer analyst, Nick Barker's the coach. He's a great coach, and it's awesome that the police department has hobbies that folks can do. I know there's pickleball and bowling.
Yeah.
So folks can have a life outside the job, which is great. Softball just happened to be similar to what was my hobby and recreation activity through college.
So after college, what got you into policing? Because I know you were a state trooper before.
So good question, Lieutenant. My wife, I will blame her. Hannah had basically, as she was going through nursing school, was kind of making her way. Medical folks don't have a chain of command, but I guess to speak our lingo, she went from like working the business office, just registering and admitting patients, to as she got certain certifications in school, she became a nurse tech, and then a full-blown RN. Well, in her emergency room travels, obviously she dealt with, the stuff we deal with, the aggravated assaults, whatever. So she had interactions with law enforcement. This is her direct quote. She said, "You're a little bit of a jerk, you're a little full of yourself, and a lot of the guys that come up here from the police department act the same." And so I'm not saying I didn't have any interest in law enforcement. My dad was a corrections officer, but that was not the career path I thought that I would take. And I'm sure my dad was in agreement with that, but.
Well, I think you fit the stereotype, right? You're a handsome, tall young man, so I think that's the right stereotype for police, right?
With a father figure.
I would have father figure. I would have think that's a better
a redheaded ginger with a bad attitude.
Great sense of humor.
She was
perfectly.
As she always is. Hannah was right, and so I started applying to local agencies and got hired. To your point, eventually with the highway patrol as a trooper, but started in 2009 with the City of Anderson Police Department. Which was more of almost like not a lateral move, but same certification just from one agency to the other. Went to the County of Anderson, the Sheriff's Office, and then State Patrol for South Carolina, and then here. Well, I love Athens. So it's a melting pot of all kinds of folks. So Athens is like the perfect size. The police department's great because you have a ton of officers to address the needs of the community, but you still kind of know everybody.
What advice would you give new officers?
So like going back to, and I'm not saying I did it right or wrong. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat with the old Southern expression, but I would certainly recommend officers try to not necessarily be reactive, but try to find a balance between, hey, I want to protect the people that can't protect themselves. I can arrest people if I have cause. I have a very important job to keep the community safe, and you can kind of start moving too fast for conditions, versus know the basics, know your everyday routine, know how your equipment needs to be set up. No different than we do with the dogs. That human has to be able to take care of the dog's basic needs first. Then they have to be able to read the nuance in the dog while they're working. Then the obedience, and all the kind of cool sports stuff you see. That's as you're kind of refining the dog as the dog gets older. I would say a human officer takes that same progression. Hey, handle the basics answer your calls, lean on your older or veteran officers.
You come to work, y'all work 12 hours or 8 hours?
We're still on 10-hour
Okay,
shifts.
so you work your 10 hours, clock out. What's Bruno like at home?
Good
What's his
question.
favorite toys? What do you do to de-stress?
So we do get one maintenance training day.
Okay.
I want to hit on that, where Athens does a great job above and beyond the state standard for K9, which is 16 hours. Our K9 teams are getting a specified 10-hour day every week. So minimum 40 hours a month of where it's just dog training. Now, if there's a major incident, of course, we have our radios on. You know, we're still in Athens,
Ready to deploy.
ready to deploy. But that is awesome that our dogs get one day where it's all about addressing any deficiency they have. That's kind of our way of doing like a shift briefing, because everybody's in the same area, and we do those at different training sites, throughout Athens.
You and Bruno spend 10 hours a day in a vehicle. What would you think Bruno would say about this job? If he can talk, what would he say?
Well, Bruno and I are both would be, I would say it's kind of being a dude, but we would both be diagnosed with attention deficit, so I don't really know how much time we spend in the car. I'd like to ride around. I'm not one to just sit somewhere. Certainly if we're sitting somewhere, then I'm gonna lay him a track, which is kind of just me playing hide and seek. And then if he follows my odor, he gets a toy. That's something pretty simple.
What would he say about you? Would he say, man, this guy is just won't shut up? What do you think he'd say about you?
He'd probably say my feet stink, one. He'd probably, we might have to put a explicit on the podcast here if he was really being truthful, because it's the best one-way counseling, no different than if you and your dog at home, your pet dog, are sitting on the couch, or the dog's on the floor and you're on the couch. And it's that one-way counseling where you just kind of get to, you can, I don't want to say you download your problems on the dogs, but they're listening.
Yes, sir.
They may not be able to answer you, but they're listening. And it is a really cool part of my job, especially now as a supervisor. One, I can't cut up as much. I got to be a little more professional.
I agree.
And lead from the front. But just to see how, especially if you get a newer officer and a new dog, watching that relationship kind of progress. Because I would say to the listeners, the huge difference between the K9 unit and any other unit in the police department, not that we're different or better or any of that, is it's super intriguing to me and cool to see that some scenarios you're training the handler, the human, just the human. Some situations it's just for the dog, and then as they kind of progress and they get their mojo, you're doing a lot of scenarios that are the dog and the human.
So how valuable do you think the K9 unit is to Clarke County?
For an agency our size, it's a specialized unit, so I wouldn't go so far as to say you have to have it. It's a necessity, like uniform patrol. You have to have people, answering the calls, per the Constitution and state law. But I would say an agency this size, to be independent and have all the resources they need to address anything, I would say a K9 unit, needs to remain here in Athens.
Well, Sergeant Turner, thank you for coming on the show.
Yes, sir.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Classic City Blue. We'll see you next time.